Okay, good morning, everyone. I welcome you to this interview series called Products with Purpose. Hope everybody out there is doing great on this Tuesday morning. So to introduce the purpose of this show and myself, my name is Eli Harrell, and I'm a lifelong entrepreneur, advocate of lifelong self-directed learning, huge supporter of purpose-driven businesses. And the purpose of this interview series called Products with Purpose is to tell the stories of extraordinary people who are really putting everything on the line, going all in to create the impact they want to see in the world. People who are building products and businesses that are really meant to sustainably change the way we live, the way we see, really also the way we see the role of business on the planet. And because any of you out there doing that know that there's a lot of stakes on the line, that failure can be super disheartening, I want to bring stories of people who are doing this already, and so that we can increase the odds of success by sharing stories from others in the same game. So it's really my pleasure this morning to welcome and introduce to all of you somebody who I'm very much learning a lot from, just in the conversations I've had, and kind of researching his background. Vijay Solanki, who is the founder of ParentalEQ, somebody who I think has a very broad set of experiences with a background in psychology and in corporate marketing and product development in a bunch of multinationals, fast-moving consumer goods, media. I think he's somebody who brings a very interesting perspective to being an entrepreneur, because he's been an entrepreneur, somebody who has innovated inside large established enterprises. And so he's building a company called ParentalEQ, which has the purpose of supporting parents, educating parents to better understand the needs of their children during the most critical years of their emotional development. I hope I understand that well and said it well, but please welcome and thank you so much for being here, Vijay. Good morning.
No, and thank you for having me. Good to be here.
Yeah, excellent. Looking forward to chatting. So yeah, Vijay, just, I guess for anybody who hasn't come across you before or doesn't know you, love to hear your quick intro of kind of how you see your journey that's led you to who you are and led you to move from being a corporate entrepreneur to being somebody who started something from nothing with a passion for the purpose or the problem you want to solve. Like, how did you get here?
Yeah, science, planning, serendipity, or pure luck. A combination of all the above, quite ratio of which I'm not entirely sure. But let me also use this experience in talking with you to have another go at trying to make sense. Because there are those who feel like they're predetermined in their destiny, and then there's pretty much the rest of us, which is the vast majority. I was born in Nairobi, Kenya. To your parents, I moved and was brought up and identified with the UK, with a part of the UK called Yorkshire, which is a beautiful part of the country. I back, I think to some extent I was just trying to be a good Indian boy, and went to medical school, even though it wasn't the right thing for me, and I didn't really enjoy a lot of the medicine, but excited by psychology and sociology, and have this thing about why do people do what they do. And me, psychology, I graduated in psychology, enjoyed it, but I think as a 20-something was still trying to figure out who the hell I was, and was going off the rails. Really managed to scrape out of uni with a degree. Didn't fancy clinical psychology. Spent some time exploring it. Couldn't figure out how people deal with being a ward full of schizophrenic patients. It was beyond me, age 21, 22. Was drawn to occupational psychology, so psychology applied to business. Did this internship because I was trying to figure out what I needed to do. Felt I needed to go and get a proper job, having medicine. Felt quite nervous about life in the world, age 22. Managed to wangle this internship at Procter & Gamble's UK headquarters in North England, where I went to university. And I had a mentor who said to me, applied psychology in business, that's called marketing. and he'd come out of marketing, was running HR or part of HR, effectively developing training programs for young marketers. So I saw the Procter and Gamble firsthand. I didn't feel like the culture was definitely me, but the discipline really warmed to me, which is, hang on, you can go and work somewhere where you're paid to kind of understand why people do what they do, and make recommendations and try to move this forward. I didn't really understand what marketing was, but that bit of being paid to understand and apply consumer behavior grabbed me. To this day, every single day. If there was one reason at that kind of holistic level, it's that. It's like, can I find something new today that I didn't know yesterday about people, which is interesting, intriguing, insightful, and my background has been about so that's probably a kind of core thread. To unpack just quickly a little bit more, John Unilever in what was known as management marketing through the eyes of Unilever, basically all about putting the consumer at the heart of the business. Everyone, but there are very few companies that obsess over it. And Unilever to this day is still one of them. I think what they do is remarkable, and it's certainly a gift that to me. Everyone does marketing, everyone. And Unilever made sure that whether you finance, in supply chain, R&D, in anything, you were that was the obsession. And Unilever now, an interesting case. Anyway, so that gave me an incredible toolkit. More recently, Philips was before I came to Australia, and that was still making use of my market, which is putting the consumer at the heart of a company and building everything around that. Product services, figuring out business models, figuring out, I don't know, user journeys, whatever. And then in the middle was in media, which is just a kind of passion space for me, and lucky enough to spend time in two scaling up businesses. I wouldn't call them pure play startups because they were already businesses driving. Well, lastminute.com was absolutely driving revenue. Shazam had an incredible idea and unique technology. So Shazam probably already. So all of that has given me an incredible experience. How did I get to now? I think my parents passing away forced a big rethink. That got really harder. With purity about who I am, what I stand for, what on earth am I here on the planet to do. I think we all think about it, but I asked my goals to really go deeper than maybe, particularly when my mum died 3 years ago. Yeah, and it got me thinking about unfinished business with psychology. It got me thinking about my own parenting, and it got me thinking about things like Ikigai, which we can talk about your with and he came across it a couple of years ago, and thinking, shit, I've got to give this a real hard shot. My comfort zone in corporation. I love the notion of entrepreneur. I love the idea of being a kind of troublemaker. I really found it super rewarding and actually got really good at it. And figure it out in the wilderness of startup. I found that really hard. But yeah, no, I'm here to have a damn good go at trying to build a parent science company and figure out if we can genuinely align from day one, from the ground up. So we'll see what happens. We've spent 18 months or so getting more wrong than we've got right, but making steps forward at the same time. Yeah, and we've still got a mountain to climb. We just kind of know what the mountain looks like. To make it makes it a bit easier to climb. So that's how I got to where I am today. I hope some of that made at least a little bit of sense, Eli.
Yeah, actually, there's many points there, many topics or thoughts you shared that I would love to talk more about, from Ikigai to being an entrepreneur, which is something that's always fascinated me. I feel like I could go into a large company and innovate. I love building new products and services, and but I don't know if I could because I haven't tried it. But fascinating. I think your journey, you've done a lot of things that I kind of wish I had done. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, so I haven't really had those chances to do things like that. But from topics of purpose and profit aligning, there's many things I'd love to talk about there. But before we jump into those, actually, one of the biggest ones I want to talk about is like how do you think maybe from a more specific way, how do you think the experience set that you got from creating new products and services inside large corporations, being an entrepreneur, has translated in what you're doing so far in creating something from scratch? Do you think, because I think there's a lot of founders out there building products, whether it's tech products or not, they don't have that background, so they've never actually developed a product from scratch. And I would love to see if we could translate some of your expertise to them if possible. So anything you want to say on that topic?
Yeah, I was grinning as you were asking the question. The first thing that came to mind was you better ask the co-founders. I make this joke, and I guess it's that kind of associated imposter syndrome with having a crack at being an entrepreneur of space. I really don't know that well. And I make the joke that all the years of corporate village, you come out and you start to be an entrepreneur, where you go, right, let's figure out the brand or the marketing plan or the product roadmap, and you look for the team and you kind of go, oh, that'll be me. And the problem with all the time spent in corporate is being able to look left and right. Now, I've got two incredible co-founders who are super smart, super driven, and bloody patient. So I think part of it is an adjustment to being in a space where, and everyone in corporate moans about the lack of resource and the lack of money, and it's such crap because you do not know how lucky you are. And we have literally money. Outside of that is you got to make choices. I think we try to do too much. I'm constantly having to remind myself, and certainly my co-founders do a pretty good job of reminding me that we've got very limited resources. So I think you've got to reframe kind of expectation, reframe kind of working with others. And that's quite a lot of adjustment when you've spent so long in corporations. What I think it does bring is corporations, the art of being a successful entrepreneur is your ability to make networks. If there's one thing I've learned about startups is there's this kind of myth, there's the Hollywood myth that a founder with a couple of co-founders go and kind of change the world on their own. Such crap. Look, there's so much you can do as a founder, clearly, and you set the vision and you obsess over it. And, to quote Luke, our CTO, he talks about rinse and repeat, a little bit this way and a little bit that way. But I believe that you need so much help. You need people who buy into your purpose, your mission, your values, and even 5 minutes help, 5 hours help, 5 days help, it's a little bit of help, because you need that. You can't do very much on your own. You can kind of steer the ship. So you need people doing their bit, jumping out. Sometimes it can be quite helpful. I think when you're a startup and you're literally asking favors, it's tough, right? Because you're really grateful that people are helping you, but sometimes they're not being helpful. And sometimes they are. That's interesting navigation. Yeah. I think you get good at just spotting people. I think part of it in startup is actually finding other people who've done startup. I've talked to a lot of my corporate colleagues and give me fantastic advice, but they've never done anything, because I've realized, shit, I've spent the last years not doing anything. I spent that time building networks, clearing the way so the team can execute. I work really well with teams. So it's been an adjustment. And I still find myself who looks like they're interested in our purpose, who looks like they've got a skill set. I'll be desperately trying to persuade them to give me 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days of support. Look, and I think all of the toolkits, all of the principles are incredibly helpful. The things in corporate called fit for purpose, which I find really, so we might in my Philips days, we were trying to create a culture which was bringing the best of corporate and the best of startup. We were reading Eric Ries and the Lean Startup, and we were reading Wilder and the Business Model Canvas. I think a lot of those tools, Steve Blank, Get Out the Building, they're amazing. Knowing what a good brand looks like, what a good product looks like, what a good pricing model, I think that experience, you might not always know how to do it, but you know what good looks like because you've done that.
Yeah.
So recognition of good, whether it's the position, pricing part of the mix in front of you, or whether it's people, because they're the two things, right? I think that move you forward. I think they can help most of the time. I do think there's this notion I make this joke as a marketer at heart. The 50%, it's an old saying in marketing. I think it's attributed to Lord Lever. It's attributed to Rockefeller. I know 50% of marketing works. I think for modern business and the transition from corporate to startup, for modern thing, my version of that is I think half my knowledge is useful. Half of it isn't. I think what you've got to be able to do is to unlearn stuff. And I've got two co-founders who help me unlearn stuff that's not useful. It just sounds like corporate crap. Or I read startup stuff, startup people. So it's a balancing act of unlearning, relearning, and getting clarity around what you do. I summarize it as the strategic end of everything I've learned is proving to be really helpful. But the reality of the startup is like strategy and ideas is important. Ideas are easy. Execution is bloody hard. And that's the bit that every day weighing up the two.
Totally agree. Hey, Vijay, I'm going to ask you a question here. I'm having a really hard time understanding you because of the upload speed wherever you are. I think like the connection is really choppy, and I'm getting messages from people listening that they can't understand either. So I'm thinking there's so many nuggets in what you're saying. I don't want people to miss it. And I'm just thinking maybe we just reschedule this to see if we can get a time when we've got a clearer connection. You okay with that?
Yeah, of course. I'd be happy to do that. Apologies for that.
No, it's not obviously not your you don't control your ISP. Yeah, no worries at all on my end. So I mean, I'm piecing together a lot of what you're saying, but it's I'd say 60% garbled. So
okay. Yeah, just one idea. Does it work without camera if you just want to run the audio, or is the camera a fundamental part of the conversation?
For the live streaming, I think it's pretty important for people to see it in LinkedIn and stuff. Yeah. If that's cool with you. So yeah, let's just chat. We'll just I mean, I don't know, now it's like pretty clear, but a lot of what you've said so far, I don't think it's very intelligible. It's intelligent, but not intelligible. All right. So yeah, no worries. Just technical difficulties, and we'll find another day that works well, if that's okay with you. And let me just, guys, we'll just broadcast a time when this will go live again.